Okay, so I don't really know when this story takes place, but if I remember correctly, Pokemon cards were still cool, so you could ask Austin if you really wanted to know. This story starts with the decision my mom gave me to either stay or get out of Webelos or move on to the next Boy Scouts of America thing, which is Boy Scouts, and that's when you're a teenager. So Webelos has games and food, and that's basically the only reason I did anything back then, so I chose not to go to Boy Scouts. And then my mom was like, all your friends are going though, and so I'm like, I'm going to Boy Scouts. And so I get to Boy Scouts, and none of my friends are there, so I'm like, okay Mom, I'm not going to Boy Scouts. And she's like, well, you made a commitment, and so I had to stay in Boy Scouts. Now, the Boy Scouts of America have this sick tradition where they trick your parents into letting them kidnap you for the weekend and take you into the wilderness and take away your plumbing, electricity, and sense of happiness. Camping. I don't know why they do this, because I mean, how often are 11-year-olds like stuck in the wilderness by themselves without supervision, tools, and a sense of direction? But it's just something they do. So we had a special camping trip that my mom told me, this is the one you have to go to. I don't care if you go to the other ones, but this is the one you have to go to. And so I end up going after we argue, and we come to the consensus that I was going. And so we get there, and as it turns out, there's a 5-mile hike we have to get there, and to the campground. And I'm carrying everyone's water because I'm the youngest, because none of my friends came because they all left. And so I'm carrying their water, and I'm listening to all their awkward, appropriate homeschooler jokes. And the scout leaders don't let me tell my jokes because they're like public school jokes, so they're like crude and tasteless. And so after a while of this horrible death march, we get to the campground, which is just this barren wasteland. And once we get there, everyone picks up the axes and they start building their shelter because they didn't let us take a tent. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. And then I decide I'm not going to do that. And so I go out and I'm just searching around to see if there's anything cool here. And I find this dead deer, and I find a cactus. And after that killed about 3 hours, I returned to the campground, and I started building my shelter, but all the good evergreens were taken. And evergreens aren't always green, and they don't always have leaves. So I got these crappy evergreens with no leaves, and I cut the branches off of them, and I had a pile of sticks. And I was like, okay, what do I do with these pile of sticks? And one of the awkward kids was like, oh, hey, you could build a teepee. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I built this teepee. Okay, so the night's coming to a close because it's starting to get dark, and they build a campfire. And this was actually the highlight of the weekend. And I don't know if it's because like awkward homeschoolers are always like talking to themselves because they don't have friends, but they were like excellent storytellers. And so these stories were just awesome. And we were going, and of course the rest of the weekend's great, and everything is perfectly, and I make a ton of awkward friends. Well, not exactly. It starts to rain, and it's raining hard. And right then everyone's like, oh, good thing we all brought our tarps. And I was like, yeah, good thing my mom brought my tarp. And I look around, and I'm like, my mom didn't bring my tarp. Like, she needs to learn personal responsibility. I grab my sleeping bag, and I run, and I dive into the evergreen, and they have no leaves. And so I'm not really protected. And I'm under this evergreen, and I'm like, this night is horrible. And so I then realized, like, the situation is completely out of my control, and just like laying here in my wet jeans isn't going to do anything. So I go and I walk around in the rain for a little bit, and I find these, I find my friends' off-brand trail mix, which don't have M&Ms, so I mean, what's the point? But I take them anyways, and I end up the whole night just sitting in the rain, eating people's trail mix out of their bag, and smiling because I knew that I could find comfort in an uncomfortable situation, and that's what I've been doing ever since.